looking for Curlin as usual to try to get that inside shot. They lob it into him, right side of the key. He spins, hook shot is good.
All right, it's taken out by Parker. Parker throws a long one into the left side. They feed it into Stilt, and it's tapped away from Stilt. And we win 54-53. North Carolina did it.
In the corner. Houston with 6 seconds left. Into Walton. He can't score. Maravich fires. Gilbey. It's all over.
It is one of those fantastic moments in sports history.
No team ever was as disciplined on the basketball court as Al McGuire's clubs at Marquette University.
Left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! The Guardians are going to win the national championship.
On a crisp afternoon in early December of 1891, Dr. James Naismith invented basketball. There were no breakaway rims or 24-second clocks. Instead, this 30-year-old physical education teacher at the YMCA training school in Springfield, Massachusetts, had created a simple game. He attached peach baskets to the railings of the balcony at the opposite ends of the gym. He had also scribbled down 13 rules, including 9 players to a side, baskets counted for a single point, and a jump ball after every basket. The new game of basketball was a success from the second the first ball was tossed up into the air. Word quickly spread that something new was going on in Springfield as spectators flocked to see Naismith's creation. Said Dr. Naismith of his game, and I quote, "I had in mind a tall, graceful, and expert athlete, one who could reach, jump, act quickly, and easily," unquote. If one didn't know better, it would almost seem as if Naismith was describing the players of today. Measured in national championships, no school in the history of college basketball can approach the success of UCLA. Between 1964 and 1975, the Bruins were unstoppable, winning 335, losing 22, and bringing home an amazing 10 national titles. Behind this greatest dynasty in college basketball stood one remarkable man. His name, John Robert Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood.
Coach John Wooden was so good that in my run to the Roses, in 10 years of my career, we used to fight for the second best. And the reason I like Coach Wooden is that he won 9 championships in the NCAA. That way, instead of disliking 9 guys, I only disliked 1 guy.
His records will be there forever. Nobody is ever going to match him. And he was a great coach, great gentleman, and boy, what a credit he was to the game of basketball.
John Wooden first grabbed the attention of the basketball world as a 3-time All-American guard at Purdue University in the early 1930s. Under the guidance of head coach Ward Piggy Lambert, the tough, aggressive Wooden was instrumental in leading the Boilermakers to the 1934 national championship. 14 years after this accomplishment, John Wooden accepted the head coaching position at UCLA and set about the task of turning Westwood into a winner. In 1964, behind the backcourt combination of Walt Hazzard and Gail Goodrich, the Bruins defeated Duke by 15 points in the NCAA Finals to cap an undefeated season and earn the school's first championship. With no starter taller than 6 feet 5 inches, the 64 Bruins utilized a devastating full-court press along with a dynamic team chemistry.
They complemented each other very well in the different things that they could do. Goodrich is a great shooter, Hazzard's a great passer. Hazzard had to be fired up to something. I had to be at times critical of him to get him mad at me. If I'd get Goodrich mad at him, he'd go in a shell. Well, you learn that about their different personalities. Erickson was a highly spirited competitor, but a great athlete. Jack Hirsch was no one can analyze Jack Hirsch. The group complemented each other exceptionally well.
Returning only 2 starters from the 64 team, Gail Goodrich and Keith Erickson, the Bruins repeated as national champs in 1965. In the finals against the University of Michigan, Goodrich played one of the greatest games in Final Four history, burning the Wolverines for 42 points in a 91-80 UCLA victory. In the winter of 1964, the whole country was talking about Lou Alcindor, a 7-foot-tall New York schoolboy. Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was such a force at Power Memorial High School that NBA coach Gene Shue said of the 17-year-old phenom, "I'll trade 2 first-round draft choices for him right now." After more than 100 college scholarship offers, Lou settled on UCLA. That fall in Westwood, Alcindor's freshman team, with Lucius Allen, Lynn Shackelford, and Kenny Heights, previewed the future in an intra-squad scrimmage against the varsity.
We played them our first game of the year was the varsity freshman game, and they're ranked number 1 in the country, and we beat them by 15 points. And so it ended up that they were ranked number 1 in the country and number 2 on campus.
People would ask about it and said, well, what do you think about the freshmen actually beating them in an inter-squad game? And I said, well, it's tremendous. It just has me looking ahead with great pleasure. It made the future look mighty bright, I'll tell you.
Bright indeed. Beginning in 1966, with Alcindor in the middle, the Bruins would win 88 games and lose only 2 in the next 3 years. When the curtain finally closed on the Alcindor era, UCLA had become the first school in the history of college basketball to collect 3 consecutive national championships. After Alcindor's graduation in 1969, UCLA was expected to return to the ranks of mere mortals. Much to the dismay of the competition, this was not the case. With a front court of Curtis Rowe, John Vallely, Steve Patterson, and Sidney Wicks, the Bruins won 57 games in the next 2 years and added 2 more national titles to their trophy case. Following the graduation of Wicks in 1971, the stage became set for a new era at UCLA and a superstar center named Bill Walton. At 6 feet 11 and extremely mobile, Bill Walton was everything Coach Wooden expected in a big man.
He didn't have any weakness as a player. He was a great all-round player, a great attitude, worked hard on the floor at all times, set a great example as far as workability. In many ways, he marched to the beat of a different drummer.
With teammates Keith Wilkes, Greg Lee, Larry Farmer, and Tommy Curtis, the Walton gang was invincible, going 2.5 years and 88 consecutive games without losing. the 1973 NCAA final against Memphis State, Bill Walton played the greatest offensive game in Final Four history, scoring 44 points and hitting on 21 of 22 field goal attempts. Following the graduation of Wilkes and Walton, nobody expected UCLA to be national contenders in 1975. Yet, behind the leadership of David Myers and the talents of Richard Washington and Marcus Johnson, the Bruins made their 9th consecutive Final Four appearance. Before the Final Four began, John Wooden announced he would be retiring at the end of the tournament, regardless of the outcome. In order for UCLA to give their great coach one last championship, they first had to get by a tough Denny Crum-coached Louisville team. With seconds remaining in overtime, the Bruins trailed by 1.
Carter against Murphy to Spillane with 8 seconds. Around to the right to Marcus. Richard Washington shoots from 8. He scores! 4 seconds, 3 seconds.
Having survived the Cardinals, UCLA faced Kentucky to decide the national championship. The game was close throughout, but the Bruins started to pull away late in the second half. Finally, with less than a minute remaining, it became obvious that John Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood, would retire with one more championship ring.
He throws it high in the air. The Bruins players go jumping all over each other. It is one of those fantastic moments in sports history when UCLA's John Wooden in his final coaching game at UCLA.
To fully recognize the legacy of John Wooden and UCLA basketball, anything less than a 10th national championship would have seemed inappropriate. When reviewing the basketball career of Ray Meyer, it's important to mention he did not invent the sport. It only seems as if he's been around as long as the game. As a player at Notre Dame in the late 1930s to becoming head coach at DePaul in 1942, his association with basketball has spanned 6 decades. In all, 4 coaches, Adolph Rupp, Fogg Allen, Henry Iba, and Ed Diddle, have more victories than the coach who recorded 724. In his 42 years as head coach, Ray Meyer had 37 winning seasons. He produced 20 teams that earned postseason tournament bids, including 13 trips to the NCAA tournament and 7 trips to the NIT. One of his most memorable seasons occurred in 1979 when his Blue Demons made an all-out drive to reach the Final Four. Standing in the way were the UCLA Bruins.
Brigham Young had their dancing girls on the floor going through their routines, and UCLA players came out on the floor a little early, and they started to play the UCLA Victory March, and they ruined the dancing routine. So the people in Brigham Young, they didn't like it. They were upset. But when we came out, they cheered for us like we were men. They adopted us. After the ball game, we came back to Chicago. We had the following week to play in the Final Four. Well, the president of Brigham Young called our president and said, no, she didn't have a band. Would you mind if our band represented you? So they did. And we sent them little T-shirts and hats. And Brigham Young band represented DePaul in Salt Lake City. That's the first time the Mormons and Catholics ever got together.
Though DePaul made it to the Final Four, the Blue Demons lost to Larry Bird and Indiana State in the semifinals. However, Coach Meyer characteristically looked on the positive side. He was, after all, doing what he loved best, coaching basketball.
I look at basketball and saying this, boy, what a wonderful life I have led because I got paid for doing something I like to do.
The year was 1955. The team was the University of San Francisco. The players were a 6'1" guard named Casey Jones and a skinny 6'9" center named Bill Russell. The result, one of college basketball's greatest dynasties. Under the watchful eye of Coach Phil Wolpert, the Dons launched college basketball into a new age.
But Russell made shot blocking an art. He is the only one ever, even to this day, that has shot blocking as an art.
We played him once, and I told our center, if you don't fake before you shoot it, it's never going to get up to the rim. Well, he took his first shot, and Russell didn't block it. He caught it. And then he watched one of our players. He looked like a little ant. He let him go around underneath the basket, and let him go up, and then he took the ball. He was just so good.
Bill Russell knew how to intimidate more than he knew how to block shots. And he put that pink elephant in the back of your mind. So every time he'd go in, if he would block 5 shots a game, he would intimidate 30 shots.
In 1955, San Francisco was unstoppable as they took a 27-1 record into the NCAA finals against third-ranked LaSalle and their superstar Tom Gola. With Russell and Jones combining for 47 points, the Dons cruised to a 77-63 national championship. The winning streak continued to 54 straight games next season as USF once again reached the NCAA finals. This time, Russell and company defeated Iowa 83-71 for their second title and claimed the winner's share of $12,500 from the NCAA. Russell, Jones, and the University of San Francisco Dons, one of college basketball's greatest dynasties. Beginning in 1931 and lasting for more than 4 decades, one man, Adolph the Baron Rupp, ruled the sidelines of Lexington, Kentucky. While collecting more victories than any coach in history, 874, Adolph Rupp made the University of Kentucky synonymous with college basketball success. In basketball-crazed Kentucky during the 30s and 40s, everyone followed Coach Rupp and the Wildcats on the radio.
My brother and I used to sit at home and listen to the Kentucky games on radio when we were little kids. And we would play along with the Cats with a coffee can and a wadded up piece of paper and shoot back and forth into each other's can as the game progressed.
Rupp's Wildcats were a disciplined, fast-breaking outfit that received plenty of national attention. In fact, all state players from across the country would travel to Lexington to try out for the team. The competition was intense, and many quality players didn't survive the cuts.
Many of the players that were cut by Coach Rupp were picked up by other schools as they left the gym and courted by especially the colleges locally. But I remember many good players that did not receive scholarships that tried out here, and one in particular was Frank Selby. And Frank went to Furman and became the nation's leading scorer.
From such a deep talent pool, Rupp put together college basketball's first superstar team in 1948. They were called the Fabulous Five and featured All-Americans Ralph Beard, Alex Groza, and Wallace Wah-Wah Jones. In a 3-year span, the Fabulous Five won 100 games, lost but 7, and won 2 national championships. Unfortunately, the accomplishments of the Fabulous Five were permanently tarnished when Beard and Groza were indicted in the point-shaving scandals of 1951.
That team was so loved throughout the state that the reaction was disbelief that this just could not have happened to our players. And I remember Coach Rupp's statement before the scandals hit Kentucky was that no one could touch our players with a 10-foot ball.
Despite the involvement of his star players, Rupp kept on winning at Kentucky. In 1951, he collected his 3rd national championship behind the towering talents of 7-foot-tall William Spivey. 7 years later, the Baron picked up his unprecedented 4th national title when the Wildcats defeated an Elgin Baylor-led Seattle squad 84-72. In 1972, Adolph Rupp retired from coaching. After 42 seasons, the incomparable Baron's influence extended far beyond the Kentucky Bluegrass.
He was known throughout the world as the greatest coach, the winningest coach in collegiate basketball, he was the king, and he was the chief, and he was the potentate, and because it wasn't the bluegrass way, he became the baron of the bluegrass.
'57 saw the emergence of Wilt Norman Chamberlain, the 7'2" sophomore center from Kansas. Nicknamed the Big Dipper, Chamberlain averaged just under 30 points per game as he led the once-beaten Jayhawks into the NCAA finals against top-ranked North Carolina. Tar Heel coach Frank McGuire had a multi-talented team with 6'5" hotshot Lenny Rosenbluth, Joe Quick, Bob Cunningham, Pete Brennan, and Tommy Kerner. The Tar Heels entered the NCAA title game with a 31-0 record. Their dream season almost came to an end in the semifinals as they survived a triple overtime marathon against Michigan State. Just about everybody felt North Carolina was too tired to bounce back, especially since